So first off, the marketing for Spider-Man No Way Home was abysmal. First, they would release trailers and TV spots that showed way too much. Then, when they would get flack from audiences for that, then they would release more trailers and TV spots. Not so much that they would hide things or just kind of keep things contained, but they would literally edit and Photoshop things out of the trailers. And then audiences gave Disney and Marvel flack for that then. So then they re-released trailers and TV spots and added in what they edited out. And the reason being is because it was blatantly obvious that what they were trying so hard desperately to contain was there. And behind all of the lying, deceiving, deceit, video editing, everything, Spider-Man No Way Home inevitably is everything that you want in a Spider-Man film for a third and capper for a trilogy, for this new Spider-Man trilogy. Now, I also went into Spider-Man No Way Home most likely unlike everybody else. Every single trailer, every single TV spot that I watched for No Way Home before watching the film itself disappointed the hell out of me. Not only did they show way too much, but also what they showed off just didn't make any sense at all. It was stupid. Like the very first trailer where it showed off Spider-Man going to Doctor Strange to try and get people to forget that he's Spider-Man. Well, okay, that's fine. But then he was trying to mess with the spell, and they added just comedic elements as a plot device, typical Marvel and Disney fashion. I didn't like that. I did not care for it. I strongly, strongly dislike that plot device. It can be used every now and again, but Marvel and Disney, they're obsessed with that kind of plot device where when something dramatic happens, there's always got to be a funny part to it. Now, set that part aside. Watching the film itself, like I said, I went in already disappointed and expecting to be let down by No Way Home. When, better yet, I started watching the film and I was still there, but then by the end of the film, it's a mostly exceptional, passable film. No Way Home is a really good film. It's honestly almost on par with Infinity War, the first Iron Man. It's really good. There are parts in No Way Home that are exceptional. Parts being the written dialogue, the writing for the characters, so many. I mean, a giant abundance of Spider-Man references and Easter eggs to past, present, and even future Spider-Man anything. When they made a film about the multiverse, they went all out. This is a Spider-Man film about Spider-Man and everything Spider-Man through and through. References, Easter eggs, action sequences, characters, story, everything. And like I said, the writing is a 10 out of 10 when they're focusing on character dialogue, the characters' motivations and actions. 10 out of 10 character work. I would say 7 out of 10 for the overall writing. And the reason I give that a 7 out of 10, even though 10 out of 10 for character dialogue and writing, is because while the story is entertaining going through multiverse kind of elements, it's also a cliche plot. And I get it. They had to link this Peter Parker's story with, certain other story elements from past and present, and that's fine and understandable, but it doesn't get a full-on pass for me. There are cliche parts to the story and to the plot. And with that being said, the story is passable at most. The performances are mostly exceptional, with some parts being, I just kind of sat there thinking to myself, they can put more into their acting in this scene. That's not all the way through the film, just a couple parts, but and sometimes it was Tom Holland even that I just felt like he could have done more for certain scenes. Now, as far as the filmmaking process, from about the 25-30 minute point into Spider-Man No Way Home to the end of the film, exceptionally well made, exceptionally well filmed, exceptionally well edited. The first 30 minutes is entertaining and the story is gripping. The problem is this feels like it should have been a 3-hour Spider-Man film. They have so much story packed into a 2 hour and like 16 to 18 minute film that the first 25 to 30 minutes suffers excessively in the pacing. They try to continue from Far From Home into No Way Home, and they try to just blend it into the next continuing storyline, and that's fine, but it feels as if they were just trying to get from here to there as quickly as possible. And the storyline in the intro is riveting and entertaining, and it is funny, and it is heartfelt. But the 25-30 minute intro could have been 45 minutes. Hell, I would have taken an hour-long intro. Like I said, Spider-Man No Way Home, I feel it should have been a 3-hour film. And that's not because of my love for long films. That's just because when a film feels unfinished or just untouched, kind of, to me, it just feels like a fatal flaw with the film's justice. And that's where I stand with Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't think it's a garbage fire like I thought it would be. I think it's actually a really, really well made, really well done film with a lot of key errors in the filmmaking and the writing. The characters in No Way Home are exceptional. This is a Spider-Man film with multiple villains done very well. They bring back pre-existing villains, and they even the storyline is its own villain. And the heroes, the villains, the side characters, everybody, they do mostly exceptional jobs. Sometimes here and there they could have done better, could have done more, but that's also a discredit of the director, not necessarily the actors or actresses. I'm sure they give their all. It's more so the director not telling them you can do more of this. And so, with me, Spider-Man No Way Home, that's everything I have to say about it. I would say that this is a very close second, if not tied with Far From Home as far as the best in this Spider-Man trilogy. Hands down, Homecoming is the weakest just because of how woke it is. A lot of woke jokes. Even nowadays, even in this film, I still don't like the casting choices for some of the characters, but they're passable at least. They work. I mean, Zendaya was just in Dune, and I think she did a really good job in that for all of the minimal parts that she had in that. And that's the thing, too. Compare Spider-Man No Way Home with the likes of Dune, where they have almost the same runtime. The difference is Dune's storyline, with how complex it is in the character studies and character works, the storyline in Dune is really simplistic, and it's just kind of straightforward, just down the line, you just go through the story. Spider-Man No Way Home, they try to bring in so many storylines, and it mostly works, it mostly holds up, but I feel that it breaks its own back trying to do so much. And it's really funny because there were so many bad criticisms of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 trying to do that, and even Spider-Man 3 with multiple villains, multiple storylines. The thing is, and I agree with Spider-Man 3's criticisms, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think they did the multiple storylines and multiple villains very well. Spider-Man No Way Home, they do that well as well, but also they add in a linear single message actually for the villains. This film's story is actually revolving around the villains. And I do appreciate that kind of storytelling, because this story is basically about they get warped in and then they realize that they're the bad guys, obviously. And then they realize maybe we can actually do something good instead of be selfish for once. Let's try to change people's fates, change their futures. And that's this story, among other, a lot of interwoven, small, minor side stories. Overall, for me, what works the best and most in Spider-Man No Way Home are just everything about the characters. That's the number one thing about Spider-Man No Way Home. If they didn't do that right, then this would have been a piece of crap film. But they did the characters, every single character, justice. Cliche storyline with an entertaining story and plot behind it. Good performances, good direction, outstanding looking visuals in some scenes, some really bad, cringy looking visuals in some other scenes. Not very many, but there are a couple where they look ugly. They just look bad, straight up bad. And I think that's because some of the actors in this film that they brought back, they kind of aged out of their role, so they had to do what Martin Scorsese did to Robert De Niro in The Irishman, but in that it worked for the most part, other than The Hunchback. In No Way Home, like for example, Willem Dafoe, he just looks really odd in this film. Now, his character, they do him justice. It's kind of funny because they really, really up the ante with his psychotic tendencies as being a schizo and everything, and having multiple personalities and having BPD because of the Green Goblin. And I did appreciate that out of the Green Goblin. I did really like how they really upped the stakes with him being as psycho as possible. Doc Ock, always a treasure on scene. And the thing I loved what they did with Doc Ock in this film is take Spider-Man 2, the very first Spider-Man 2. That's just funny to say, but I never realized this until this film. Spider-Man 2 was about the rise and fall of not just a billionaire's strive to be a successful technician and scientist, but it also had to do with his rise and fall of his mental stability. And they really delve deep. That's the biggest thing they delve into Spider-Man No Way Home. It's the villain's mental stabilities and just their capacity of morality, their capacity of what they're capable of doing, and can they be changed? Will they change? That kind of stuff. Jamie Foxx is always a pleasant delight on screen. Whenever he has to throw out a joke, it's always funny. And him back as Electro, a treat. I enjoyed him as Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I enjoy him as Electro now. I believe his name is Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman. He does his job just like he did in Spider-Man 3. Wasn't great, wasn't bad. It was just kind of Sandman being Sandman. The Lizard, I think you pronounce his name as Rise Ifin, whatever it is. As the actor himself, he didn't really have anything to say looking as the actor, but as the Lizard, he too had some good scenes, some funny lines, funny jokes, and it's all meshed together, I believe, pleasantly. Very well done. Everything is just very well made except the intro. And the thing is, the character dialogue and the character writing supersedes everything so much that the action sequences, especially in the third act, they just kind of feel put in because Marvel action epic. And that's not bad. They're not bad sequences. It's just the character dialogue and the character motivations and all of the characters just having dialect between one another is so strong in this film that even the action sequences are just kind of there. And that's one of the biggest flaws of this film, is also one of the best things, the character dialogue. So well done that it actually brings some of the other things about this film down just because of how average and generic they're made. The action sequences are entertaining, but they're nowhere near as entertaining or hilarious as seeing the actors working together on screen. Just a complete 10 out of 10 delight there. I would say the action sequences without all of the dialogue and everything are a 7 out of 10, passable, average generic Marvel action sequences. The character dialogue and the actors working together, 10, 20 out of 10, hands down. That sells this film. The actors and the characters working, doing their jobs, that is what sells this film. As if this film is the first film to come back and bring in $1 billion, it will be because of the performances and the characters in the film. Plain and simple. Not the action, not the visuals, not anything having to do with the story or the movie itself. The actors and the actors that are portraying the characters, everything about the characters and actors. So, for me, overall, Spider-Man No Way Home, major highs with not really lows, but just kind of average to below average scenes and just parts about it, like the intro being way too quickly paced and action sequences just being, generic Marvel standard. So for me, No Way Home is a very solid, entertaining 8 out of 10, but you should go see this film. It is very entertaining for the references and the Easter eggs. This is a Spider-Man film about the villains and Spider-Man through and through. Thank you.